Well, friends, it's time for another upcycle. We're going to be starting out with this lovely pair of shorts that I thrifted. The first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead. Oh, wait, I was going to cut. That's not the first thing. The first thing I'm going to do is stitch the pockets closed. I'm going to top stitch here to close this pocket. Do the same on the opposite side and also in the back. And after I do that, I'm going to come in and just cut completely up this side seam to open up the side seams. Upcycle blues. What does it mean? What, you may ask, is the logic behind it? So let's define the word upcycle. To put it quite simply, it's about producing sustainable fashions from pre-existing garments and fibers. It's rebirth and rejuvenation, sort of like a second chance. And we all need a second chance every now and then. There's something spiritual about it. Okay, so the back pocket has been stitched closed. I'm going to go in now and cut this excess pocket lining out. Since we have removed it, I'm going to leave a nice little edge that I can serge. I'm going to take that to the machine and serge that off. Now I'm going to turn these completely inside out so that I can remove both side pockets. Starting with this one, you can see the stitches here. I'm going to clip my threads. Take a look at both sides and see where I'm going to cut. Okay, before I make my cuts, I'm always making an observation of what I'm going to remove and what I'm going to leave behind, and what's going to be done with what's going to be left behind. So to start, I'm going to make a cut here at the top, and also a cut about here. And all that's going to do is just leave me something to serge. And in fact, I think I'm going to curve it so that I don't have to make any sharp turns with my serger. So I'm going to try to do this in a direction that you can understand. I'm going to go just to this side, the inside of that stitching, always looking to make sure I'm not cutting the fabric that I want to keep. Okay, and so now I'm just going to serge that off. So here's what it looks like after the serging. We just want to make sure that when we're doing an upcycle, that we don't ravish through our garments so that they look less, I'll just say less finished. We still want to have maintain the integrity of having nice finishes on the inside of our garment. Making note that I did not remove the laundering tag here. I kept that in place. This is what the back looks like. And I may or may not remove this tag. I'll have to determine that as I go along. All right, so I'm going to turn these back to the right side. Everything looks good. Everything looks nice and flat. I don't have any excess bulkiness anywhere. So now is the time for me to go ahead and cut my side seam. I'm just going to come to the front of this stitching and cut all the way down. It always feels a little scary, but just take your time, think about it before you do it. Make up your mind as to what needs to be done. Make a mental note of what's going to happen after it's done, and then do it. We do go ahead and proceed with cutting through these garments, but not without thought, okay? You do have to give it some thought prior to making your cuts. Now we've got a nice clean cut, and we'll do that on both sides. Real quick, I'd like to share something with you. Notice you can see the elastic here. So to maintain that elastic, I'm going to go ahead, let me turn this right side up for you. I'm going to go ahead and just make a stay stitch there to make sure that elastic does not come out. And I need to do that on both sides so that I don't lose my elastic. Just a nice little stay stitch here, and do the same on the fronts. Okay, friends, when you're designing on the fly, you often will make changes in the midst of the process. What I have decided to do is, first of all, take a couple of pins and pin my elastic in on the front so that I don't lose it when I make this next cut, okay? Okay, so I've done that because what I've decided to do is just go ahead and take all of this out, okay? So I'm going to cut and remove all of this, okay? Like that. Because I already have these nice panels cut that I'm going to insert. And I need to remove some more of the shorts in order for these to fit. So they won't be too big. I have to take some extra fabric out here. So the step we did about closing up the pockets and everything really isn't going to be necessary for this one, but it would be if you were making these bigger and just adding fabric in here. That will make them larger, but these were already the right size for me. So if I want to insert this much width, I need to remove that much width here if I want them to remain the same size. I hope that didn't confuse anyone. So I'm also going to come and just cut this part out because I don't need this excess bulk in my side seams. So rather than doing a stay stitch here, you can also pin your elastic in until you figure out exactly where you're going to be cutting. So let's go ahead and make this cut. Always leave enough room when you have these back pockets. Leave enough room here to make seams. Okay, so let's just go ahead and take this out. I'm thinking that ultimately I want to take out 1 inch all the way down, approximately. Okay. I'll do that on the other side, but for now, I'm going to deal with this front, and I want to cut just beyond where this pocket is. So just go ahead and just take that all the way out. I know. It's a little nerve-wracking, isn't it? It's like, ooh, don't worry. You are the designer. You can always come up with an idea to make it work, okay? Now that I have one side cut, I'm going to use it for the pattern on the opposite side. I'm just going to fold it in half, matching my center fronts. Or I could just measure and take the same amount out. Either way. See what I'm doing here? Making sure Everything is laid flat and even so that I end up with the same amount of fabric on both sides. I can pin that down if I want. I take a look at the piece I've cut. Now I see if that's approximately the same amount of fabric I'm going to be removing. It's better if you start out taking away less because you can always go back and remove more. I feel pretty confident with this, so I'm going to move forward with making my cuts. Always realigning and keeping things in place as I go. Oh, see that? I almost took out that laundering instructions tag. Thank God, Aries. Good, it's still there. Phew. Okay. So I'll probably just tidy up this a little bit, remove that edge off. And now I'm going to have a new front and a new back in just a second. Let's take this off. You can always practice. Buy something relatively inexpensive from your thrift shops. Take donations from people who are throwing away garments. Or use some of your old clothes that you were going to donate or discard. And try something like this first before you try it on some fabric that you really want to make sure you preserve well. All right, so this is what I'm looking like, okay? And I like it. I'm thinking by the time I add my side panels in, I will be right where I want to be. So let's get those pinned on so that we can start sewing. Okay, so I've thought about this, and since this is going to be the top of the shorts at the waistband, I think I better narrow that and taper that in a little bit so that I don't have to put elastic in here and have a little extra around the sides, which makes the waist look a little thicker sometimes. So I'm going to shave a little bit off at the top on both my pieces. I'm going to go ahead and just put right sides together. Bear with me. I'm going to turn this where I can see it to make my cut. And then I'm going to pin right sides together and stitch this in. This will be like a center, I'm sorry, a side front seam. We come in up to 1 inch. This is kind of an intuitive thing right here that I'm doing. Just because I know how my body is shaped, I can't really tell you precisely how much to do because yours is going to be different. Yours is going to depend on how much you're taking in, how much you're putting in, I'm sorry, and how much you're removing. So this is where you kind of have to make some decisions for yourself. I'm just kind of giving you the general idea for how I'm letting you in on my process. So that you can kind of just get an idea maybe of your own for how to do a similar upcycle, or even if you want to just try this one. Okay, now I feel better about that, so that when I go and put this in, yes, now we thinking about where it's gonna, yeah, that's looking like it's gonna be the right size. I'll make adjustments, I'm sure, as I go along. But now basically all I'm gonna do is pin my right sides together. I'll make some decisions about whether or not I want to leave some down here for him or whether I just want to match it completely up at the bottom. I'll make that decision off camera and show you what I decided in a second. I actually inserted my panel, and then I remembered that I wanted to add a decorative element by inserting some trim into that seam. So I had to go back and remove those stitches. I hate picking stitches. I don't know what it is about picking stitches. It just irks me so bad. But yeah, so what I need to do before I stitch those side panels in at the side front here is first go in and attach my trim. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going to pin that in where I want it, how I want it to end there. And so then I'm going to stitch this in. And then I'm going to come back in with my side front panel, right sides together. So it's going to lay in there like that. That's what I was after. I've moved my needle over to the far right position so that my stitching is close to the edge here. When I get to the end, I'm going to determine how much I want to fold over underneath right here. So I'm just going to make a cut here. Raise that up, turn it under, line it up, and continue my stitch. Okay, friends, I have my lace sandwiched in between the right sides of my panel and my shorts, and I'm just going to stitch that on in. Sorry, the camera's moving. Okay, so here's where we are. We have our fronts pretty much finished with our new panel and the embellishment. And I feel like I don't say enough about pressing. Once I sew this in and finished the seam with a serging stitch, I go in and I deliberately lay my seams to one side and I press. Press, press, press. Like my grandmother used to say, you have to press, baby. Press every step of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to check the size and the fit. I'm going to put these on. And then I'm going to determine whether or not I want to insert the lace on the side back here, or if I just want to stitch it up without the lace. I haven't decided yet, so we'll see what happens. My. Oh, I think these turned out so cute. I am loving these, you guys. So here is the front, and here is the back. Now, I did go ahead, just to show you, I left that extra part at the top. It was already finished with the binding, so then I can just turn it under like this, and then either top stitch or whip stitch that in place. So, but now some design inspiration is hitting, and I'm thinking of maybe doing a little something extra around the bottom. But we're going to stop here. I'm going to style these up for you guys, and we'll see the finished look. You must be able to look at a garment or textile and envision it as something entirely different. I got the upcycling blues.